"Ma'am, this line is for actual keynote speakers," the man in the headset said. Then he smirked. "Please don't hold up the real guests." It started with a scandal. Not a screaming match. Not a viral tweet. But 8 sharp words delivered at 9:07 a.m. outside the largest tech summit on the West Coast. The woman he was speaking to, Amara Blake, 38, black, CEO of Spectralogics, one of the fastest-growing AI startups in the country, didn't blink. She didn't move. She simply stared at the man as the crowd in line behind her shifted awkwardly. The security team watched from behind the ropes, unmoved. The man blocking her path, dressed in a summit staff windbreaker, raised his badge scanner with fake patience. "Let's not make this uncomfortable. Speaker access is to the left. Staff and vendors use the side entrance." Amara was wearing a charcoal blazer, black jeans, and a matte black leather bag. No labels. No assistant trailing behind her. No team of interns with name tags. Just her. Alone. That was intentional. This morning wasn't just a speech. It was a test. And they were failing it. A young woman 2 places back in line, white blonde pastel blazer, leaned toward her friend and whispered, "Ugh, she's making a scene." The friend replied, "I mean, do you see a lanyard?" Amara opened her phone. In 3 swipes, she pulled up the internal dashboard. She tilted the screen toward the man blocking her. Speaker, Amara Blake, CEO, Spectralogics. 9:45 a.m. main stage, sponsored by Open Grid Labs, TitanNet, TechSphere Ventures. His eyes flickered. For half a second. Then he shrugged. "You probably just submitted an RSVP. That doesn't mean VIP." That moment, that sentence, would be quoted in every major outlet by midnight. "Doesn't mean VIP." Amara didn't flinch. She turned to security. "Run my name." The taller guard, maybe early 50s, earpiece coiled tight to his neck, squinted at her, then tapped something on his tablet. A moment later, he stiffened. "Ms. Blake," he said quietly, "you're confirmed." The staffer in the windbreaker coughed and looked away. But it was too late. Phones were already out. Red recording lights dotted the edge of the velvet rope. Amara stepped through without a word. Inside, Eva, her assistant, met her by the private lounge. "What happened?" Amara exhaled. "They failed the test." Eva blinked. "Do you want me to escalate it?" Amara paused, then said, "Not yet. Let them seat the crowd. Let the sponsors get comfy. Then shut the doors." Back in the lobby, Summit's social media manager, Tyler Marsh, was whispering with 2 other organizers. "Someone's already posting it on Threads," he muttered. "A speaker being blocked at the entrance." Another added, "That guy's toast. But let's spin it. We'll say it was a misread badge." But the twist. The post already had over 220K views in under 30 minutes. Captioned, "Black woman gets blocked at tech conference. Turns out she OWNS the damn startup." Hashtag know who you're talking to, hashtag Spectralogics, hashtag via only. Inside, Amara sipped coffee quietly, watching the numbers climb in real time. Eva leaned in. "Should I let Carla know we're initiating Protocol Delta?" Amara gave a calm nod. "Yes. Start the countdown. In exactly 20 minutes, we shut them down." The green room smelled like nerves and lemon water. Stagehands moved like ghosts between curtains, their headsets whispering in sync. The main hall, just 20 feet away, buzzed with the anticipation of 2,000 venture capitalists, founders, media execs, and tech influencers packed shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the 9:45 keynote to begin. None of them knew what was coming. Amara Blake sat still. She didn't pace, didn't sip water. She scrolled silently through the conference's event app, watching a single hashtag rise like a bullet through the trending charts. Hashtag blocked by mistake. Hashtag V only. Hashtag Amara Blake. Eva stood nearby, phone in one hand, second phone in the other, one for the world, one for war. "Carla's online. Protocol Delta confirmed. Full lockdown in T-8 minutes." Amara nodded. "Get legal on standby. And tell PR they'll get my quote live, not canned." Outside, the man in the staff windbreaker, Jared Harper, was being called into a small white security tent. Inside, the site manager scrolled through footage from the entrance lobby. Each second replayed in crisp, humiliating clarity. Amara being blocked, dismissed, denied. Jared stood there red-faced. She didn't have credentials. I swear. She had the top badge in the system. How was I supposed to know? That question would haunt Jared for a long time, because the answer was simple. You were supposed to look. Meanwhile, back on stage, the host, a slick-talking MC with a podcast voice and a painfully crisp blazer, tapped the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 17th Annual Future Now Tech Summit. Thunderous applause. Flashing lights. Holographic sponsor logos floated above the audience like a corporate halo. Our first keynote was scheduled to begin 9 minutes ago, but we're experiencing a slight delay. Backstage, the event director scrambled. Where is she? She's in the green room, replied Eva, eyes locked on a countdown timer. She said she'll step out at 9:51. Exactly. Why? You'll see. At 9:50 a.m., Amara stood. She adjusted her jacket, pressed a hand to her chest once, not out of nerves but calibration. She stepped to the curtain, where a handler stood with a headset and clipboard. Ms. Blake, we're ready when? A sharp chime interrupted her. All screens, tablets, monitors, phones flickered black. The Future Now logo vanished. An override screen replaced it. Protocol Delta initiated. Main stage override in effect. Powered by Spectralogix OS. The tech team froze. The MC blinked mid-sentence. The audience buzzed, confused. Phones were being raised. Then, the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit center stage. And Amara Blake walked out alone. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She stepped into silence, the kind that's not afraid of itself. The screen behind her lit up with one question. Do you know who's in the room with you? She let the question hang. Some of you clapped when I stepped on stage, she said slowly, her voice carrying without a mic, but most of you had no idea what I looked like until 30 seconds ago. The crowd shifted. Guilty silence. Even the front-row investors, the ones who had written checks with too many zeros, avoided her gaze. You know my resume, my patents, my net worth, my TED Talk with 28 million views. But this morning, all that disappeared the moment I didn't match someone's mental picture of power. She tapped her tablet. The lobby footage played behind her, the confrontation, the dismissal. The moment Jared waved her off like a delivery person. You watched it happen. Now imagine living it. Someone coughed. Someone else gasped. This conference, Amara continued, runs on infrastructure my company built. Your ticket registration system? Spectralogix. Your facial recognition cameras? Spectralogix. The networking app that just crashed? Spectralogix. She stared out at 2,000 faces. And yet even here, in a building wired with my name, I'm still invisible if I don't wear the right shoes. Murmurs now. Shifting feet. Blinking phones. Then she dropped the hammer. So I made a decision. At 9:27, I authorized a lockdown. Protocol Delta. Every system in this building is now under Spectralogix control. And until every speaker, every sponsor, and every staffer completes an unconscious bias training that I wrote, the conference is suspended. Gasps. Audible. That's right. You flew in for the biggest tech event of the year. And it's on pause. Because power without reflection is just noise. She turned her gaze to the side stage shadows. Jared, you can come out now. The crowd twisted. Jared walked out stiffly, white-knuckled, escorted by 2 PR reps. He looked like a man who had walked into the wrong dream. You made a mistake, Amara said, but so has everyone who stayed silent through moments like it. She turned back to the audience. I'm not here to cancel you. I'm here to correct you. The screens behind her shifted again. Reboot in progress, new keynote, what it means to really lead. She smiled just barely. The summit will resume after you've learned something. The silence didn't last long. By the time Amara Blake stepped off the main stage, the hashtag SpectralLockdown had racked up over 1.7 million views. Every major tech outlet was tweeting about it. LinkedIn posts multiplied like wildfire. People weren't just posting what she said, they were quoting it, framing it, reposting it over grainy lobby footage. Power without reflection is just noise. In the hallway outside the auditorium, heads of marketing whispered into headsets. Sponsors were panicking. The executive producer of the summit, Sloan Ridley, a woman who wore panic like perfume, stormed into the green room with a tablet shaking in her hands. We can't shut the conference down, she hissed at Eva. Do you understand how many brands we have here? How much we've spent? Eva didn't blink. Then you probably should have started with asking how much Spectralogix owns. Sloan sputtered. There's still time to undo this, she said. Tell her to pull the feed, retract the footage. We'll issue a formal apology. A press note. Hell, she can headline next year. Amara stepped out from behind the divider. Next year's already spoken for, she said coolly. And I don't do apologies written by committee. Sloane's mouth opened, but Amara had already turned to Eva. Status. Tech teams running the bias training backend. HR's pushing live notifications to all attendee apps. Everyone's getting the alert at once. And Jared. Eva handed her a phone. He's trying to call you. Amara declined the call without looking at the screen. 10:37 a.m. Meanwhile, online, at a cafe 3 blocks away, a junior VC named Lauren Baptiste stared at her screen. She had seen the hashtags popping up for 20 minutes, but hadn't clicked until now. She watched the clip twice, then 3 more times. She closed her laptop, stood up, and muttered, finally. At that same moment, in a Manhattan high-rise, billionaire investor Peter Crawley was not celebrating. He was furious. His name was trending negatively. Spectralogics was one of his firm's portfolio darlings, and he just texted Amara an hour ago saying, "Good luck, kid," before her keynote. Now he was getting emails from board members asking if Spectralogics had gone rogue. He hit dial. Back at the venue, Amara's phone buzzed. Eva glanced at the screen. Crawley. Let it ring. He'll go public if you ignore him. He'll go public either way. Amara sat down and crossed one leg over the other. When you train wolves, they don't like the leash. But this isn't about pleasing old money. It's about new order. Eva hesitated. There's going to be blowback. They'll say this was staged. They'll say it was a stunt. Then I'll give them something they've never seen before. She pulled out her backup phone, typed a short message. Hit send. 10:51 a.m., the second twist. Just as the training videos rolled out to all attendees, another alert hit every device connected to the conference app. Loudspeaker new session added. Location Ballroom C. Title: Unmasking Influence, The Truth Behind TechGate. Speaker: Olivia Marks, whistleblower, former director, TitanNet Ventures. Attendees started whispering. Olivia Marks. That name had been buried under NDAs for years. She had left TitanNet under vague, personal reasons. Rumors swirled, but no one had ever confirmed why. Now she was on the schedule. A few rushed to the new ballroom. Within minutes, it overflowed. Then overflowed again. People were sitting on the floor, leaning against the walls. And when Olivia walked on stage, modestly dressed, tired but determined, the room held its breath. "Good morning," she said. "For those who don't remember me, I used to sit in the back rooms of venture capital meetings where black and brown founders were referred to as diversity tokens. I used to watch as their term sheets were halved before they ever saw them." She paused. But this morning, I was invited by someone who didn't just break the mold, she melted it down. Behind her, the screen lit up with a title card. TechGate Files, What They Don't Want You to Know. The session went viral before it even ended. People weren't just watching anymore. They were changing. And Amara. She stood backstage, not watching the feed but the people. Faces no longer smug. Eyes no longer scanning for logos or wristbands. For once, they were seeing something more than themselves. Peter Crawley didn't just control money, he controlled headlines. By 11:05 a.m., just over an hour after Amara Blake had taken control of the entire Future Now Tech Summit, he was already on a call with 3 producers from TechVision TV, drafting a spin. "We're reviewing Spectralogics' contract as we speak," he said into the speakerphone, his tone icy. "This isn't leadership. This is theatrics." But before the anchors could even prep a response, a new alert flashed across their internal newsroom feed. Stop sign, Spectralogics just went live with a counter press conference. No PR firm. No script. Streaming now from the center atrium of the summit. Inside the atrium, it wasn't just reporters gathering. It was everyone. Developers. Journalists. Sponsors. Staff. Amara stood at the center of it all, on a circular platform meant for sponsor demos. No lights. No backdrop. Just one mic and a small plaque at her feet that read, "Spectralogics, where logic meets vision." She cleared her throat and began. "Some people call what happened today a stunt. Others a meltdown. But let me offer a third option, clarity." The crowd hushed. We are so used to building technologies to solve problems that we forget some of those problems exist inside the builders. Inside the people at the top. She held up a tablet. This, she said, is a dataset we've never released publicly. Until now. Behind her, a projection screen came alive. Rows of numbers. Bar graphs. A simple title. Bias Index Results, 2022 Internal Pilot. 28,932 companies. 19 sectors. And a conclusion that sent a ripple across the atrium. 67% of founders of color were offered less favorable terms on the same business models as their white counterparts. 49% of VC meetings with women-led teams were shorter than 11 minutes. Only 3.1% of surveyed investors could recall the names of 2 black-led startups they had rejected in the past year. Amara turned back to the crowd. These numbers are not made up. They're not misrepresented. They're yours. No one moved. She continued. Every pitch deck you skipped, every name you forgot, every time someone said, not a market fit, when what they meant was, not my type, we tracked it. She paused. You built a system that learns from you. And guess what? It learned your bias. Cameras snapped. Phones shook. But here's the real twist, she added, voice calm now. I'm not here to cancel anyone. I'm here to rebuild. The crowd blinked. Reporters froze mid-type. Starting today, she said, Spectralogics will launch Project Equal Code, a public API that lets companies run their own hiring and investment data through our filters. Free. Forever. A pause. Transparency, she said, isn't optional anymore. It's infrastructure. Meanwhile, a 19-year-old crashes the system in a good way. Down in the demo hall, a crowd was forming around a booth that had been largely ignored all morning. A scrawny teenager in a hoodie, backpack still on, was adjusting a DIY-built device made of scrap components. His name, Liam Reyes. First-gen college dropout. His app, GateCheck. What it did, cross-referenced conference entry logs with public shareholder data to flag credibility-based bias patterns. In other words, it knew when your badge was accidentally flagged for extra screening because your last name didn't sound familiar. He hadn't gotten any attention before. Now, he was trending because Amara had just shared his data in her API. And the entry footage from the morning? His app had logged it in full without anyone realizing. Tech Twitter exploded. A 19-years-old just exposed the future of access bias. Hashtag GateCheck, hashtag Equal Code. This is why diversity in tech isn't just ethical, it's vital. 12:23 p.m., final power shift. By lunchtime, 3 major sponsors had pulled out of TitanNet's next venture round. Peter Crawley, in an emergency board call, was overheard saying, "She didn't just embarrass us. She reprogrammed the game." And in the speaker lounge, Eva handed Amara a phone. "You're getting calls from New York Times, Vox, NPR, and Michelle Obama's chief of staff." Amara blinked, then smiled. "Book them all. But not today. Today's for the founders who never got this stage." As the crowd dispersed, one line from her keynote still echoed across every phone. "I didn't crash the summit. I opened the doors you locked." And for the first time in that industry's long history, they didn't just hear her. They listened. The next morning, the Future Now Tech Summit made history again, but not because of a product launch, a funding round, or a viral demo. It was because the schedule changed. At 9 a.m., instead of keynote speeches from unicorn founders, investors, and serial entrepreneurs, the summit opened with a community-led session titled, "What It Really Means to Get in the Room." The panel included Maya Jones, the intern who had been dismissed from speaker line the day before. Liam Reyes, the 19-year-old who built GateCheck. Olivia Marks, the whistleblower who finally spoke freely. And at the center, unannounced but unmistakable, Amara Blake. She didn't sit on the stage. She sat with the audience, cross-legged, in sneakers, because that's how she'd started, because hierarchy didn't mean leadership anymore. Later that week, CNBC led with, Spectralogics resets the tech playbook. CEO Amara Blake goes viral for shutting down her own summit. Forbes wrote, "The moment tech had to listen, and the woman who made it happen." And in an op-ed, a longtime industry exec finally admitted what others wouldn't. She didn't break the system. She showed us the code, and we were the bug. But most importantly, Over 12,000 companies downloaded the Equal Code API in the first 72 hours. VC firms began publicly releasing bias audits. A dozen startup accelerators rewrote their pitch criteria. And GateCheck. It was acquired by SpectraLogix, with full IP rights retained by Liam Reyes. The press asked if Amara planned to monetize the movement. She said, "No, you don't charge people for clarity." And now, before the story ends, Amara has one final word. And it's not in a press release. It's right here. She turns to you, the viewer, and asks, "Studio microphone, have you ever been judged before you spoke?" Maybe it was walking into a room where everyone looked up and assumed you were lost. Maybe it was waiting behind someone in line who got a smile while you got suspicion. Maybe it was an interview where you were told, "We're just looking for the right cultural fit." Or maybe you're someone who never noticed this, because it didn't happen to you. If that's true, listen even closer. Because what happened to Amara Blake wasn't an accident. It wasn't even rare. It was routine. The only difference, this time the person you dismissed owned the entire room. And instead of raising her voice, she raised the stakes. Instead of shouting back, she built tools that made it impossible to ignore. So if this story hits you, share it. Not because it's viral, because it's real. And because maybe the next time someone's badge doesn't scan, you'll look twice. Not at the wristband, but at the person. Because power isn't about being the loudest. It's about knowing when to speak and making sure it echoes. Speech Balloon, drop your thoughts in the comments. Collision, hit like if this moved you. Bell, subscribe if you want more stories that don't just speak, they shift something inside you. See you next time. Until then, be louder than silence.